Relax. You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, slightly after 9 p.m. Where else would you rather be, Steelers fans, after a big win on Sunday and another one coming up in just 2 days? Here we are, and with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
Everybody, please join with me and take a moment to breathe in that sweet smell of victory, which is always just a little bit sweeter when it's a victory over the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, it is. I'll be honest with you. Any AFC North victory is a little bit sweeter. But, yeah, the Baltimore Ravens, especially because
everybody wang harbs tonight.
Yeah, they're the other cream of the crop of the AFC North on a more, when you average it out annually over the history of the AFC North, they were there. They're the next team other than the Steelers. So that's why. And my goodness, this was a quality NFL team that the Steelers played on Sunday. And yet it's the team that the Steelers they have their number. It's the way it works. And you know what? How is it that we want to sum this up, Rich? What was it that you wanted to say for sure? What's the quote?
The quote is, "Don't apologize. It's a sign of weakness."
There it is. Don't apologize. It's a sign of weakness. Okay, that was the inspiration for our show tonight. We kind of twisted a little bit more into the title,
and that would be that. For those of you that don't know, comes from one character, Leroy Jethro Gibbs, played by Mark Harmon on NCIS.
There you go. No need for the Steelers to apologize. Yeah. Don't apologize.
Don't apologize. It's a sign of weakness.
It's a sign of weakness.
And honestly, the reason I gave that to you tonight, Dave, is couldn't you hear Mike Tomlin saying that?
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like a Tomlinism?
It sounds like a Tomlinism.
We're not going to apologize for winning a football game.
Yeah. Because honestly, there are some that, it just happens game in and game out. And to me, it's very different because, as most people know, because I've said it enough, I was there. I was in stadium for this game. Daniel J was there. We're in the same section. He's a couple rows ahead of me at the other end. I see him right away. We talk. We do a little live clip that was on YouTube in case you all didn't see it before the game. After the game, between signal and people and everything, it was just too crazy. I'm like, if we try to do this, it's just going to be too rough. But we went ahead and did that ahead of time. I will tell you this. My wife has extended her undefeated streak to 5 games. She is 5 times she has been to a Steelers game. They are 5-0 in those games. This is the second time they were victorious over the Ravens. The Ravens are 0-3 in games she's attending, because we did attend a Ravens game at one point through her workplace that was not against the Steelers. The Ravens lost that one as well. So I got to take her to more Ravens games, man, because this worked out.
Ravens game nothing, Dave. If the Steelers make the playoffs, you got to take her to the playoffs.
Yeah, she's got to go. Especially if the Ravens playoffs. Yeah, she's got to go. She's got to go. It was great, but once again, you get a different perspective for the game in the stadium versus when you're watching it at home, because you're not.
It's always a very different feel.
Because you're not being, I don't want to say indoctrinated. You're not influenced. There we go. You're not being influenced by the commentators.
Correct.
And I'm not. I wasn't even being influenced by social media. I didn't catch up on Twixter of everything going on with the Steelers until I got home close to 10 p.m. and then went back and looked at everything from during the game, because you just can't keep up with it in the game during the game. That's not what your focus is. You're there. You're trying to be in the moment. And I had some very interesting takes that I thought were a little maybe different from what might have been said and everything on television. But so many times this year, when the Steelers have won, we've heard the yeah, but. Yeah, but. Oh, they win the game. Especially, don't apologize for winning a game when you didn't find the end zone. Is that a good thing to not find the end zone of the game? No, we're not going to say it's a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing.
But a victory is a good thing.
That's right. And to be able to pull out a victory when you don't do that. Now realize, this is the stat I love to this, Freddie. The Steelers have won 2 games this season without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. They are. They're
The
2-0.
2-0. The rest of the NFL is 2-18.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah. And this game did not play out at all how I thought it was going to. I thought this was going to be the Steelers finally have an offense that can stick with the Ravens. The Ravens offense is just so quality, number one in so many things, that it's just going to be a different type of game than what we're used to seeing with Steelers and Ravens. Nope.
No. Forget it.
Missed that one big time.
I think I said it before the game got going. I might have said it to Renegade. I was like, this is going to be a slugfest like it normally is. And I actually said first team to 20 wins. Well, neither team made it to 20.
Neither team made it to 20. Well, I had told Jeff on the I'm pretty sure it was on the preview. I'm like, I think the rule of 20 is out for this game, Jeff. You know, his rule of 20, you get to 20 points on offense, you hold your opponent to under 20 points. That's a great, you're going to win that every time. So 20 is really what they're shooting for. And it was 18-16, and it was really something. There was some times where I was a little bit grouchy. I was a little bit pessimistic. I was very nervous. A lot of things going on with this game. But some of this is what the NFL has trained us to do. And that is every takeaway the Steelers had, I was reluctant to cheer because I was ready for it to be overturned.
Waiting for him to overturn it. Yep.
Because even on the first level, and even trying to see it on the scoreboard on a replay, you're just waiting for it. You're just waiting for it until you're like, all right, here we go. Like all of them, all 3 of them.
No, the first one,
the first one was the one that seemed okay. I'm like, oh,
the first one was
I don't
way
think
legit.
he was down.
Oh, he wasn't anywhere close.
Yeah,
wasn't anywhere close down on that one. I wondered about the second one. And I wondered about the third one.
The third one, I'm shocked they didn't look at it more. You know what I'm saying? But I never got that great of a view until I saw the replay later.
Well, remember, that's happening as they're trying to sort out the things on the field. New York's already looking at it because it's turnover.
Yes.
So, really, if New York, if one of the first angles they looked at was that one obvious angle, they confirmed it quick. If that happened to be one of the early looks they got, they confirmed it quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was he just wanted that ball more on the way down. That's not what you normally get from a linebacker. That's normally what you would get from a defensive back that's used to fighting for the ball more in the passing game, because that's mainly what they do. And that was a pretty big play. And that was Renegade. And I did not have much faith in Renegade. I was not into Renegade in the stadium as much as I typically could have been, because I was still pretty ticked that the Steelers had just turned the ball over in the end zone.
Yep.
And then they played Renegade. You needed it. You needed the defense to stop. And not only that, Baltimore's offense might not have been ready for everything with the Steelers, but I think they specifically had something ready for Renegade.
Oh, yeah.
I think they had the Renegade play. And not only that, they knew exactly what they're doing. They went to the line and they went fast.
Went to the line, went fast, designed run for Lamar Jackson, 25 yards. I was like, that was their scripted play out of Renegade to try to kill it.
Yep. And you know what? And I turned to my wife and I'm just like, they just ruined Renegade. I said, Renegade's been feast or famine this year. It's been, 3 and out or turnover, or they give up a touchdown. I'm like, it's not looking good. Boy, was I wrong, and boy, was I happy to be wrong that they got that takeaway there after Renegade. That was real. That was really something. That was coming towards us, but on the
Yes.
not the side. I'm between the uprights and the sideline, but towards the visitor sideline. So,
Trust
but it was
me,
at least in our
every big play that was happening, I was trying to figure out where it was compared to how you were seeing it.
yeah. And like Jeff Hart
you
was
had
saying,
a pretty good look at the Patrick Queen forced fumble.
yeah, I did. But there was players in the way because he broke through. So I just saw him towards the ground and the ball popping up, and I'm like, for all I know, he was already laying on the ground.
Right.
From what I could see. And then I'm sitting there replaying, like, does it look like he's down? But they're ready to move on before I really got a great view of it.
I will say they quickly got to, I think it was Gene Steratore that was doing the stuff on CBS, who quickly said that he felt that was a fumble because he felt that the rip and the ball was the movement of the ball was coming away from the player before he went to the ground.
Yeah. And I had turned to the one guy sitting next to us, and I'm like, they just going to take a knee, or you think they're even going to bother to try something with the Ravens? And that, honestly, I said, or they'll just run the ball and see if they can get something. That was actually a glorified run. I mean, it was a screen pass.
Yes.
It really wasn't them trying to do a whole lot. But man, what a great defensive play. What a great, I mean, and there was sometimes, I've said it before with the defense. If you're not making splash plays, sometimes you don't appreciate the effort of a defense until you look back over the numbers. I said that about the Washington game, that you didn't appreciate that the defense was doing a good job until you saw the numbers that they were held to. This one, because of the splash plays as well, you were acknowledging it the whole time of what the defense was doing. It really was something. But still,
if you look at the Steelers on back-to-back weeks, what they did against two very quality offensive units that were putting up, big yards, big numbers. Wow. That was pretty good.
And it's funny because I was bracing myself to say, you know what? They can't say it this time. You can't say it this time. No one's going to bother to say it this time because of who it was. And it didn't take long for me to hear it. And I'll tell you where I heard it and how foolish it really was. And that is, they didn't score a touchdown. Yes, that's not good. You've got to improve that. You've got to be better at that, in December and January. And then hopefully even February. That's got to be better if you want to play in February. But how many times have we seen the Steelers win a game, even cover the spread when they're favored, and we'll hear Steelers fans say, well, that'll never beat Kansas City. That'll never beat a good NFL team. Guess what? That beats the number one offense in the NFL and the number one rush defense in the NFL, not a good pass defense.
Which, ironically, if you go and look at it, the Steelers put up fantastic rush numbers against that defense.
Yeah, for the relatively. Yes. So, and they're like, oh, well, it's not like Najee went crazy or no, they were even. It was spread out pretty even. So it really was something to just see that the Steelers are like, nope, we're not going to go out there. We're not going to really let them do anything. And some people said, oh, well, did Lamar go? He didn't look bad. Neither quarterback looked bad. It's just they struggled. They didn't always make the killer play, if you understand what I'm saying. The other thing with Baltimore is they were shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. But there's not a single one of them that I would say wasn't one. And there were plenty of them that should have been called against them that weren't, like George Pickens getting his arm held down. That was in the opposite end zone, and I could see it without having to use the screen. And I could see him holding his arm down.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty bad. I didn't know if they talked about it much.
The only thing I thought when all that was going on, they're letting a lot of hand fighting go on. Well, that'll be good for JPJ.
Yeah. He had a nice game.
He had a nice game.
There was
part of the reason he had a nice game. Did you notice how much the Steelers brought an extra rusher and played man behind it this game? We saw a lot more. There was a lot more man than zone this game. When typically you figure you're going to see X percentage zone, a little more than man. It was definitely the opposite this game.
Yeah, and because I'm sitting in the end zone, what's really nice is you're like, oh well, when they're at the far end of the field. Honestly, when they're at the far end of the field, you kind of get a little bit of an advantage because you can see both the field and the screen
in the jumbotron
in the same shot.
Yes.
When they're in front of you, you don't see that, but it's right in front of you, so it's a lot easier to see everything anyway. So that's part of the reason why I like my seats. But I also like my seats in the end zone view because to me that's your quote unquote all 22 view. That's people call that. To me that's the practice view. That's the coach's view. That's how I'm used to watching football when I was coaching. And that's what would always be frustrating in games. I'm like, I can't see it because I'm standing on the sidelines and I'm used to being behind the huddle in practice. So like I said, there was plenty of times, and like Russ was throwing the ball away, I'm like, there wasn't anyone open.
No. And actually, they showed that a couple times on TV. A couple of his throwaways, they showed all the receivers just absolutely blanketed.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Steelers struggled with their protection in the first half. They gave up 4 sacks in the first half, but for the game, they gave up 4 sacks. So,
yes.
And one of them, I think, was Russ took off and slid, but didn't gain any yards. I think that went down.
Correct. Slid and went down technically for 0-yard gain and was given a sack.
You have to gain 1 yard for it to not be a sack.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it looked like he actually might have slid forward of the line of scrimmage, but probably not even the length of a football.
Well, yeah, because I know some people wanted to argue the whole Michael Strahan had a sack in his, when him and TJ Watt were tied. Oh, well, look, he brought him down and the ball was actually forward of the line of scrimmage. I'm like, well, that's fine, but if the official yard line of the play was the 35-yard line and the next play is run officially at the 35-yard line, even if the ball's forward to that, that's considered no gain and that's considered a sack.
Yep.
So it's all about where it was and where, which
yard
line.
I think
you could gain this much and it be no gain, and you could gain this much and it could be a yard of a gain.
I believe the sack credited to Dean Lowry on Lamar Jackson was the same thing. Actually, I know it was the same thing because Lamar Jackson was sacked twice for 2 yards, and TJ Watt got credit for the -2 when he ran him out of bounds.
Yep.
And so Dean Lowry also got a sack credited the same thing. I remember that when they brought Lamar down, and I was like, I said, I don't even think he got a half a yard there. Next thing you know, I saw it was credited a sack.
Yeah, and not only that, I noticed Dean Lowry during the game. I thought he was playing well.
Yeah.
He was earning key snaps at the end of that game. He was the one on the 2-point conversion. He's coming in, but he's smart. He's got his hands up and just kind of flailing them back and forth to not give him any kind of lane to throw. It was, he might finally be recovering from that injury that he had that cost him pretty much all of last year, because I thought he had a pretty good game. But I was saying before how it was driving me nuts. I'm like, you're still going to get people. Well, you'll never beat. Well, you'll never beat. Well, you'll never beat based on the Steelers' performance. But they did. And where did I hear what I thought? I don't think anyone's going to be able to say that this time. Where did I hear it? I heard it on Fans First Sports Network on Monday, on the Breakfast with Ben's podcast, on Madden Monday. Who says it? The guy that doesn't care one bit about defense and thinks the only thing about football is offense, and that's Mark Madden. And what does he say? Well, they'll never beat the Bills or the Chiefs that way. We saw what that looks like the next game.
Do you know what?
What?
That's Mark Madden not paying attention to football this year.
Exactly.
Because
he's not,
that
he
because
talks football, but he really doesn't understand it at all.
because the Chiefs
Yeah.
this year are the Steelers. The Steelers and the Chiefs are almost the same.
Yeah.
They're not winning games, scoring tons of points. Yeah. They're scoring some points and relying on defense.
Actually, last year was even more because their defense was better last year.
Yeah.
Chiefs defense. Their defense is not as good this year. It's not. So, but it's so funny that Mark Madden said that because it wasn't that long ago on the same podcast I heard him say that the best team in the NFL was the Baltimore Ravens. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, he only watches for offense. And that's why he thinks they're the best, because they're the most prolific offense. But yet he called them the best team. The Steelers several weeks later beat who he had previously called the best team in the NFL, and then said, well, they'll never beat this team or that team playing that way. You already beat your self-proclaimed best team in the NFL.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But they weren't – who says they're going to play that way?
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
The Steelers had a game plan, and you could see it, obviously, still against the Ravens, okay? The defense, especially the defensive line and the edge rushers, played extremely disciplined football. The whole plan was to rush the quarterback, but keep the shape of the pocket and just collapse it in. Everything was about lane integrity.
Yes.
Do not give up the lanes, okay? And there are certain quarterbacks you're going to play that way against, potentially, and others that you're not. You have a game plan every week for what you want to try to do and dictate, especially defensively, against another team's offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on your personnel versus their personnel versus what they like to do versus what you like to do.
Yes, and to think that your game plan is going to work the same for every team is crazy. It really is. That's not how it works, and that's why there's just better matchups at times. But my goodness, there's some interesting numbers that I put in my By the Numbers article, which came out eventually yesterday. For those of you that might not have known this, we were having some problems with SteelCurtainNetwork.com. We had
Dave broke it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't.
Hold on. Somebody put something in the live chat I want to bring up and get to real quick. Before you're totally shifting gears. Steeler Chick 46 said, "Hey, if I miss it, I apologize."
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Status on Benton. And
I was going to say,
I asked you because I didn't.
Yes. What's up?
I asked you yesterday. It's like, wait a minute, we didn't even list him on the possible injury report, so he must be good.
Yeah, you had sent me a message. It's the only time we had messaged. We haven't spoken since the game because we saved it for the show. But I'm like, nope. Coach Tomlin said on Monday's press conference, no, he's fine. He's good. Don't expect any to be held back at all. And
he wasn't huge.
Estimated to miss time yesterday, and today at practice he was there for not even listed. But yeah, we were having problems with the website. We ended up having to have a major over. This might change. Unfortunately, this might even push back when we get the facelift of it, unfortunately, because I'm really excited about the new look of the website that we're keep waiting for. But we couldn't get in and publish articles. People couldn't get in and read the articles. It was not good. Things are fixed now. That's, there's a couple things that are still missing on the back end of how we do stuff that I'm afraid when they go to fix it, it can mess it up again, but we'll see. But things are good there now. But my By the Numbers article that comes out the day after the game was much later, just because I couldn't get in. I couldn't even write it until 2 hours after it was supposed to be published is when I could start it, because we just couldn't get in to do it. But the Steelers held Derrick Henry to 65 rushing yards. And we're going to talk about the strategy and stuff for that a little bit. But one thing I wanted to point out, this was the fourth time the Steelers have faced Derrick Henry. And he has not had more than 75 rushing yards in any game against the Steelers. He had twice he did it with Tennessee. And then one that was even less, and then 65 with Baltimore. He's also never beaten the Steelers.
And also a 65 with Baltimore. And of that 65, half of it was one run.
Yeah, almost half. 31 of it was on one run, because we'll talk about that. But before I do, I got to tell you one thing. I'm there. I'm in my seats before the game starts. They're out there warming up, and I look down, and I'm just like, "There's the offense. There's the other two running backs. My goodness, there's even some receivers and stuff around." Derrick Henry stood out in such a huge way. Like I don't remember seeing a player stand out on an opposing team, stand out that much since the first game our father and I ever went to in Pittsburgh when we saw Detroit, and it was Megatron. How big he was, my goodness.
Kyle and I saw one that was extremely interesting,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in your seats for a preseason game, and that actually was Cam Newton.
Oh, how big he was as a quarterback.
When you put Cam Newton standing with other quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, like really, he was a tight end. Cam Newton, he was a big dude. Not until we saw him standing 15 yards in front of us did I realize how big he actually was.
Yeah. But I mean that was
But
the thing.
I know that you're having, when you put that about Derrick Henry in the Slack channel, the first thing I thought of was he's having that experience like we had with Cam Newton.
I was trying to get a picture too to prove how big he was compared to everyone, and it was either blurry or the angle just wasn't right for it to work. But I'm like, no wonder that dude is huge. Now, did he play in the Thursday game you and I went to? The Dilly game?
Yes, I think so.
I was trying to remember, but I know, and it's funny because then because David Post, how big is Mount Washington? Brian Miswa says, isn't Mount Washington 300 pounds? Remember, I said this is of an opposing team because that's who's warming up in front of me. So yeah, that's a whole different story when because I would like to get it up close to Mount Washington.
I did it training camp, not this past year, the year before. And let me tell you what, that's another one. He's standing around and you're like, why is that offensive lineman wearing an 80?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's like.
Yeah. But you were right, Derrick Henry, 31 yards on one run. There were a lot of people were like, they didn't have him in the game for the 2-point conversion. I think that was foolish.
That was foolish.
Even if you weren't giving him the ball, because we're going to talk about some other things with that a little bit. Even if you weren't giving him the ball. But he did not have a touch in the fourth quarter. Not one.
Nope.
Not.
He only had 5 in the third quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, because his second half stats.
5 second half touches.
13.
5 second half touches. That's all the leading rusher in the NFL gets. Is 5 touches for 13 yards.
But why? Because outside of that, and out of those 5 touches, remember this, one of them was 7 yards. He had one of them for 7, and the other 4 was for a total of 6. And people are like, "Oh, you got to run." The problem was the pure number of runs that were not gaining more than a yard or 2.
Yep. Hey, we'll bring up, because I watched this as well. David Post says, Rex Ryan was beside himself with the usage of Henry. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance, go back and watch that on First Take with Rex Ryan. And I don't typically, but all I saw was someone posted the clip I would like to see that then. Actually, I watched it was 11 minutes on the Steelers Ravens game, and like 8 of that was just Rex Ryan going off. Of course, him having ties to the Ravens, of course, basically worse. For him, he was just beside himself. The usage of him in the second half, and that they didn't have him on the field for the 2-point conversion, and it was, if you haven't seen it, it's almost, I will never call myself a Rex Ryan fan, but that was entertaining and true. Yeah. Honestly, you like totally made sense everything he was saying about it as to why he was upset about it.
So, but I mean, look at it in the second half. Derrick Henry 13 yards, Najee Harris, 31. Jalen Warren, 35. Lamar Jackson had 32. Justin Fields had more rushing yards in the second half than Derrick Henry.
Wow. That's a stat right there.
Yes.
I almost want to say it out loud because I want Kyle to hear it. He's over on the other side of the room playing video games. Hey, Kyle.
Uh-oh.
Justin Fields had more second half rushing yards than Derrick Henry.
So here's some things I had in this article that I just want you guys to throw out. I took what the Ravens were averaging coming into this game offensively and took what they did and looked at it as a percentage. Did you see that in my article?
I did. That was a really nice, something very different than what you've normally done, but it was great numbers.
Well, you know why? Because I had
you had the extra time.
Hours waiting for actually about 4 extra hours waiting for the website to actually work to where I could write it. So I had it broken down a little bit more, and I'm like, yeah, this will be fun. And I had the numbers from before. I just pulled off this game. So here I'll just run through it real quick. Points. 50.3% of their average. They scored 16. They had averaged 31.8. So almost half. If you round it up to the nearest full points of their average, they scored half as many points as what they had been averaging. So there was that one. 67.9% of their typical rushing yards. Okay. Here was one was actually the best for the Ravens, but it still made a big difference. 74.7% of their total yards. So in other words, they took away a quarter of what they normally get yardage-wise. And 66.9, just barely over 2/3, of their total number of first downs in the game. And those are important number of first downs. Ravens they had games with 30-some first downs. Only 16 first downs in this game where they averaged 24. So just that would just goes to show you across the board the number of things that I kept saying the Steelers can't expect to stop the Ravens. They just have to slow them down. That's what majorly slowing them down looks like.
Question.
Yes.
The one number you didn't have in there that I thought would have been fun. I don't know if you could find it and ever figure it out or not.
Okay.
But the other big stat to me in this game was the difference in time of possession.
Oh, yeah. I had the difference in time and possession. It was in the article.
Correct. But what I would have liked to seen is the Ravens had the ball for 23 minutes.
Yeah.
What percentage of that is that from what they normally hold the ball?
Okay, I could actually find that, but it would take me a while to
I know it would take a little bit to get it, but would that be because that was another place where I felt the Steelers just dominated. We just held the ball so much more than they did. Yeah,
and of course we want them to finish well. Hey, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to talk about two other things from this game, and then quick turnaround into Cleveland. And we'll talk about that. So if you're with us here on live, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry,
Relax. Don't worry. Here we go. I'm going to bring this up. BF, because I'm going to look it up. BF Bud says Ravens only had like 32 plays or so. The number of plays that they ran in this game was where is it?
It's in the 30s.
No. It wasn't. It was 54.
Was it?
Yeah, it was 54 plays to 74 plays of the Steelers. For the total number of plays.
You know what? I might have been thinking about, because I was checking stuff at halftime as well. That might have been a stat I'd seen at halftime. I thought he was. Gotcha.
I could, let's see. At halftime, they had only run 30 plays to the Steelers 35. And in the second half, they ran 24 to the Steelers 39.
I knew I'd looked at plays at some point, and it was in the 30s.
There's 20 plays difference. That's significant enough. No, it's okay. And but it says, oops, my bad. No, that's not bad. That point that made me look up the difference there. there's a couple things I want to get to because I know we have a tendency to run late a lot, and we started late, so that makes it even worse. First, red zone. Okay, you mentioned the Russell Wilson touchdown. I didn't get a sideline view of that until later, till I watched highlights.
Yeah.
Much later, like I was already home later. I'm looking at it from the end zone view. I was assuming that Washington was standing on the end line.
No.
And that Russ was like, I'm going to throw it up. I'm going to throw it high to the tallest guy out there to where he can go up and get it, or it goes out of bounds. And that's not what happened. Now, I don't know if that's where Washington should have been. Washington was turned the wrong way. Some people were like, it didn't look like he jumped. Some people were saying maybe he thought someone else was behind him and he didn't want to take the ball away from them because of where it was being thrown.
Maybe he doesn't.
It was a lot of improvising on that play. And
maybe he's a large man like you and me and, doesn't jump very high.
No, we've seen his athleticism. We have. So I don't know exactly what went down there, but yeah, that's one did I really want the Steelers to? I kept saying all the time, like, you've got to get 7, not 3, 7, not 3, and they kept coming away with 3. But man, 3 would have been huge right there.
If he had to do it over again, I'm sure Russell Wilson would have said, if you'd have asked him like right after the game, he'd have said that to do it over again, instead of throwing that ball high and soft, he'd have thrown it high and hard.
Yeah.
Because if he throws it high and hard, Washington either goes up and gets it or it goes out of bounds. But because it was high and soft,
because it was lobbed,
the trajectory kept the ball still in bounds, but kept it in play and was able to be intercepted.
So that was one I didn't really get a full read on until I saw later, because it was,
my other issue was, for me, looking at that from that sideline, there was Washington and 3 Ravens. Now, I still would have trusted him to go up and get a ball in there potentially, but that would have made me even more, as Russell letting go of that ball, I knew right away he didn't throw it hard enough.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it, with that ball having he threw the short moon ball.
Yeah.
It was still a moon ball. Lots of trajectory on it. That was my only thing, is there were still 3 guys in there. I really wanted to say, if you're going to make that throw, you have to make sure that either your guy gets it or nobody gets it.
Yep. All right, I got a super chat.
Get it.
There you go. Dude Soccer 1995. Puts 495 in the tip jar. Thank you very much. Says, Saturday didn't get to come say hi at the game, but what a great game it was. On the bright side, I ran into DeCastro and Villanueva leaving great guys, because they had them out there. I don't know if they showed it on TV, because they had them out there presenting a service member, a former service member. I mean, they're always a service member, even if they weren't, even if they're not active, with tickets to the Super Bowl. And I kept saying, man, those guys are skinny now. That's what I kept saying. I'm like, Villanueva looks like a guy that used to be a wide receiver, not a guy that used to be an offensive tackle, based on how he is now.
Well, do you remember when he first started in college, he was a tight end?
Well, I think even before he was a tight end, he was a wide receiver, then tight end.
I don't know, but
but it was, and I'm saying to my wife, I'm like, remember, I said, I'm good to see him here for this game, but doing stuff for the Steelers. And remember, he finished his career playing with the Ravens. But yeah, that was pretty cool if you got to see those guys after the game. Man, that would have been super cool. But the red zone. Yeah. It's almost like,
okay.
In the field, the Steelers, if they run a play that doesn't work, it feels like there's space to run a bigger play in the same set of downs to make up for it. Perfect example. Someone was saying, "Oh man, Broderick Jones and the holding penalties; those are drive killers." Yeah, they typically are. But do you realize both of his holding penalties were on the same drive, and on the very next play, the Steelers got a first down.
Yeah,
Got a
I
big play.
did. I
The
did
one was the
notice that.
Pickens down there, but it's like, hey, we've got a setback. We've got space. We're going to take a shot. We're going to make this up. When they get down to the red zone, I mean, especially you're talking like 1st and goal at the 8, it feels like you've got to grind out 3 yards every play. And if you run a play that doesn't get it, then you're kind of forced to try to make up for all of it. And it just didn't seem like the plays in stadium had the same kind of flow when they got down close to what they did in the middle of the field, which could have been based on the defense.
And it's really when you get 8 to the 8 and in.
Yeah.
Especially you get down towards the 5. And if you think about it, part of the reason there is there's so much less that you can do because you just don't have space.
Yes.
You know, I actually think the Steelers, when they get to the red zone, are better off trying to score a touchdown on one play from the 18
Yeah.
than from the 6.
Yes.
Because there's more field to work with. There's more surface area.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there's stuff you can do. Now I'll ask you this. We'll get this into this discussion before we head on to the Browns. What did you think of using Justin Fields?
Liked it. That's the next thing to show up in the red zone.
Loved it. And some people are like, oh, I know Charlie Batch. I heard him a little bit while I was on the Clipper when you could hear the post game show going. That as a quarterback he doesn't like it and things like that. I'm going to tell you what I really liked. Okay, they brought him into that one play.
Look.
Everyone's cheering out, and we're pointing it out to people in the stands, and we're like, "Let's go!" And he does that, and he runs it. So when the Steelers are down, and what is it? Is it 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 8 or whatever it was after the first down play? And it's funny because we're like, "Oh man, they should bring in Justin Fields right here. They should bring in Justin Fields right here." And then they do, and we're like, "It's Fields!" We were all excited about it in the stadium. Because it felt like that was because when's a good time to have it be Justin Fields? Think about this, Steelers fans. When you pretty much know it's going to be a run. When you bring in Justin Fields, now you're not sure who's going to run. That's the point.
Yes.
That's the point.
One more option of who could be holding the football.
And him coming in to do that run, was that in the 3rd quarter? The first one?
I think so. I don't remember.
No, it couldn't have been the 3rd quarter because it was going away from me every time he touched the ball. So it was either, hold on.
Second quarter. Had to be second quarter then.
I'm going to double check. 2nd quarter stats. No. 4th quarter stats. No, Justin Fields only won. I swore it was. No, his one run for 8 yards was in the 3rd. It was in the 3rd quarter, so it was coming. I don't remember that. I thought it was going. I thought I remember him huddling. Anyway, my memory's going that it was always running away from me. But okay, I'm just going by the Steelers.
Justin Fields was running away from you, or your memory was running away from you?
It might have been both. But he runs the one play. No, that's right. I think the one.
Okay, just move on, please.
Doesn't matter. But when you're talking at the end of the game, he comes in, and I'm like, now they don't know who it's going to be. All because they set it up earlier. If they didn't come in and run the play before, yeah. So he goes and he does it, and when he runs, and they first say it's a first down. Well, first of all, we're saying, you're not the starting quarterback. No, you don't want to get killed. But all you have to do is not slide feet first, and it's first down.
You should have heard me. Kyle will tell you. You should have heard me going nuts as the play's happening.
Yeah.
The play's happening. I see Fields has the ball. I immediately see that he's got the wide open field. And I said, he's got the first down. And I see him go to start to slide, and I yell, no!
Yeah. All we had to do, he didn't have to slide head first. All we had to do was kind of fold and duck and fall forward.
And roll.
And roll.
Right,
All we
because
have-
you
yeah, just
continue to roll because you're not down till you're touched.
Yeah. That
But when you slide feet first, you kill it.
But listen to this. And we're like, no. And it could have come back to bite, and it didn't. Well, as soon as he did that, and the Ravens called timeout, I said, and they're like, first down, I'm like, it's not game. But you're talking about the Ravens only having like 10 seconds. It wouldn't have been victory formation because they had one more timeout and over 40 seconds. Unless you could run around and waste enough time to run off 4 seconds on each play. Then you could have done that. Or you do the infamous when you run it down, take the delay game penalty, make them take an extra second off. If there's only 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock, that's when you get in shotgun formation and you snap the ball on 4th down and you just heave that puppy out of the end zone. Or anything like that. You could have done any kind of stuff, but that's what you didn't have to, because believe it or not, it wouldn't have been victory formation necessarily. So they call the timeout, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. They call the timeout and they bring Fields out again, and I'm ecstatic. But this was me I was living in my fears for a lot of this game. You're gonna like this story. The one thing that went through my mind, and I would not even say it out loud, is I'm like, what did we get from Justin Fields just about every game he started?
Oh, stop. I didn't even think about that.
One
botched snap.
fumbled snap. And I'm like, if Fields comes in, fumbles the snap, and they get to take a field goal from there. Oi. Oh. But I'm like, nope, he's not going to do it. And I love the fact that you bring in Fields and you hand it off to Najee Harris.
Correct. It's keeping the honesty. And actually, the handing off to Najee Harris was guys having to stay out and watch the end, afraid Fields would pull it and come around the end. So those guys have to stay out, which then goes advantage Najee powering it inside.
If you go to run the same thing with Russell Wilson,
they're all crashing in the middle.
It's going to be harder for Najee to run it. It's that little added threat that Fields could then keep it and beat you. Actually, and honestly, when he comes in, he's coming in, I'm like, oh, Fields is coming in. I said, but he should hand it off. He should open it up for the handoff. Didn't open it up much. I don't even know how much it did, but you know what? It was first down. They didn't have to measure.
No, he made it easily. It was, yeah.
So,
on TV, it was he made it easily.
So some people are like, oh, why bother? Whatever. Because there's some people that just, no matter what you say, they think Justin Fields is awful. No matter what you say, they think Russell Wilson's awful. And it's all decisions that they've made in March. I've dealt with people like that on the website. We've dealt with people in that in the live chat. We've dealt with people with that all kinds of places. They made decisions in March, and all they want to do is see what they thought and be right about it, rather than say, hey, let's get it done. I did not think Russell Wilson had a great game because he didn't finish drives. I felt he had a better game than Washington. I thought Washington was not a very good game. So that was interesting. Steel Dog 88. I saw someone else ask a question like this earlier, but this is a super chat. Steel Dog 88, $2 in the tip jar, says, do we see more Williams over Jefferson Thursday? I don't know.
My answer to that would be no.
I don't think so.
Not more Williams over Jefferson, but do we see more Williams? I think we will slowly see more and more Mike Williams every game moving forward.
I tell you what, something, if you can see it, if you watch it, I want to know if people who break down film in the All-22, if it looks the same. Because, you can break it down and slow it down and look at things and look at it over and over again. I'm trying to get it with basically one shot in the stadium for the best that I could see. And it looked like that the Ravens really did not want Mike Williams to do anything against them. They were paying significant attention to him.
Actually, it was beyond that, because again, the Steelers were kind of using Williams running deeper routes, and I think Coach Smith mentioned this in his 3 and out article. that the Ravens really set up their schemes were set to take away deeper stuff.
Yes.
They were going to make
They were doing
Russ,
the too high shell.
yeah,
They were,
they were running all kinds of different looks, but everything was designed at keeping the deeper ball out of it. They wanted to make Russ dink and dunk 'em to a win.
because you have to dink and dunk the whole way down the field and
Yes.
finish it. And they couldn't get it the whole way to finish it. I think the Ravens,
They had a fantastic game plan.
well, remember, they're coming off a mini bye.
Yes.
That's another thing that's key to this win. The Steelers, this was a bad situation other than the Steelers being at home because the Ravens are coming off their mini bye. So they had that extra time, and that they had a good plan because I think the Ravens realized, and I would have said for any other game it would have been true. They realized that they would have been more susceptible to giving up scores from outside the red zone. So they didn't give up the deep scores and then played it tight in the red zone.
Yep.
It was a good game plan. It really was. But the Steelers got down there 7 times, turned it over once, not always into the red zone, and kicked field goals, close enough to kick field goals. I thought for sure the Steelers were going to go for it on that fourth down one. I'm like, oh, they're bringing up Boz. That's going to be like 58 yards. And then I see them line up, and they say a 57. I'm like, that sounds about right. And I'm like, oh, no, good decision. No, they can take 3. Even at that distance, I was fine. And I was kind of bummed because both Justin Tucker misses were on the opposite side of the goalpost from where I was. So I couldn't tell
see it good.
that they were misses until the
I
official
know,
said
but
no
I just wanted to know one thing on those. Okay, were you giving him the stank eye?
No, I wasn't. No, I remember what I used to do when I would wear the helmet.
The helmet was use the force. Yes.
When I would wear the helmet, when they would let me take it, I didn't have to worry about them actually letting me have it in the stadium. I would stand there with the opposing kicker and just use the force when they're trying to kick. Yes, that is something that I would do. But sorry if I was away from the mic when I was trying to say that. So, all right, we got to turn the page here real quick because it is a quick turnaround to Cleveland. One big thing, honestly, the weather is going to suck. They are calling for snow/rain in the morning, turning to rain, possible sleet at night, as much as a quarter of an inch of rain overnight, which means it's not like it's light drizzle, cold, and 20 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts over 40.
Yeah, the wind is going to be crazy. So, just so you know, that's getting into the game can probably go as late as it wants on Thursday. Mm-hmm. I'll stay up and watch the post game and everything. Why? I'm probably getting a snow day on Friday.
Yeah, you're supposed to get like a foot of snow Thursday night, aren't you?
Yes, we are. So we are Thursday and into Friday. So overnight Thursday and first half of the day Friday, we are to just get potentially.
You're supposed to get snow. No, it's not, right now, it's not supposed to be snowing in Cleveland, just so y'all are wondering.
Yeah.
But the weather was the best football weather I had ever been to on Sunday. It was. I wore a long sleeve shirt with my jersey over top of it. I wore my Zuba pants. I wore Crocs, and my feet weren't cold. I wore my Crocs because they're more comfortable.
Crocs instead of your other shoes. Oh man,
I wore Crocs, man, and the weather was phenomenal. It was amazing. It wasn't hot. It wasn't cold. It was Goldilocks. It was right there. So the weather is a concern Thursday night. I'll be honest with you. I predicted this as a loss when the schedule came out. Why? Because it's the Steelers playing on a short week on the road after playing the Ravens. Yeah, it's Brian Brown. He always has one of these each week. If it snows, his Myles Garrett, get a pressure. He has them all the time. So that's what I picked in May. Now, first of all, the Browns are really struggling. That's one.
Really struggling.
But the Browns were still really struggling when they beat the Ravens. So you're still talking about familiar AFC North opponents. It's a different story. So I'm not taking the Browns really struggling into account too much. Now, could it really work to the Steelers' favor? Yes. But the biggest thing that has me not as concerned with this game, trust me, I'm still concerned with the weather, short week, traveling, all that bad stuff, is wow, did the Steelers come out of there healthy after playing Baltimore? And that is not usually the case.
Yeah, not usually the case.
You figure anybody who's dinged up bad after that game is probably not playing on Thursday. And the only one that was potential was Benton, and he's fine. I can't believe it. That is one of the most surprising things right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers for me is that, yes, you lost Highsmith from Washington. You knew that when he was missing last week, he wasn't going to make it back on a short week in between. That the next week is what you say, maybe after the mini bye. But I can't get over how healthy the Steelers are after playing the Ravens. So could there be a letdown from this game? There could be. Am I counting my chickens with this one? No. Might I change my prediction to have the Steelers win? I might just do that. But it would still be a very impressive win, even against a bad Browns team, based on circumstances. You know, as Pupsy says here, it's AFC North, which means anything can happen. So this will be an interesting one here on Thursday night. And Thursday night in Cleveland has not been good for the Steelers. It really hasn't. I don't have the exact numbers. I'll probably have them more for Pittsburgh Standard Time. So we'll see how that goes. This is an intriguing one, and because of the weather, it makes those factors that might not always be factors magnified. You know, every turnover is magnified. If you win the turnover battle, it's huge. So, Rich, are you ready to give your thoughts on the game and then give us your score?
Yes, I am.
Remember, people, don't give us your score yet. I'll bring it up once I tell you to do it. We'll bring them all up and read them. But wait for my word. Go ahead.
Okay, if you are not a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers nor the Cleveland Browns, this game on Thursday will probably be quite a snoozer for you because it is going to be both AFC North football mixed in with ridiculously poor weather. And you put the two of those things together, and it's ugly, okay? It's going to be who can win the ugly.
That's a good way to say it. Hey, well, before you give your score,
Yeah.
remember, coming out of the bye, I said, remember, there's a little bit of a break here. We got a 3-game stretch with the Steelers. If they could win 2 out of those 3, they're really contenders. They've already won 2 out of the 3. Now let's see if they can make it all 3. All right, go ahead.
All right. So, getting down to what I think my score is going to be. And this could actually, in my opinion, could even be generous. But I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. Steelers 14, Browns 6.
That is really close to what I was already thinking of that I won't be doing until the preview. Hey, get those scores in there now. We already have I already have it there in the live chat for it. And as they start to come in, just to give you a scheduling note, because of Thursday Night Football, our schedule is off a little bit with some of our shows. The Steelers preview obviously will not be on Thursday night. We will have a post-game show. Look for the Steelers preview sometime between 5 and 5:30 on Wednesday. We will be doubling up. We'll have the preview early. So that's tomorrow. Okay. We'll have the preview early. Then you'll have your pump your brakes around its normal time. Also, by Pittsburgh Standard Time, we'll still be coming at you Thursday morning. But for the last minute thoughts, that's going to be really last minute. That's going to be late. I'm going to hold it off till Thursday because it's not like we need to have something to fill in. It's squeezing it in there. I'm waiting for the 4:00 moves. I'll get that recorded, and then there you go. That'll be out there if you're wondering how any of the schedule looks. Just thought I'd put that out there. So make sure you're paying attention. Sometime around 5:00, 5 to 5:30 tomorrow, Wednesday, is when you'll get the Steelers preview with myself, Jeff Hartman, and Brian Anthony Davis. Let's get to some of these scores. Gabriel Golden says 17-15 Browns. Browns. It was who we picked because it's a short week away game. So remember, if you don't say a team, we're assuming Steelers. But yeah, 17-15 Browns. Kathy has 31-18 Steelers. Man, putting up 31 points in that weather would really be something. Steel Dog 88 says 19-13 Steelers. Brian Brown says 31-13 Steelers. And Miles Garrett will get pressure just because the Steelers get a win. Steel Chick 46 has Steelers 21, Browns 14. Afton Ford says 18-10. I almost misread that to say thought it was 18-0, but yeah, she's going with Boz kicks. They're gonna have to. I don't know that Mike Tomlin is going to try a 57-yarder in that kind of weather.
No.
But we'll just have to see. Thank you, Thomas Riley. I would have been disappointed otherwise. Steelers 10, Browns 10. Got to keep that up. Mr. Woodside says Steelers 20-16. BF Bud has 34-14 Steelers. David Poe has an ugly 20-10 Steelers win. I mean, remember, 20-10, that was the score when the Steelers beat the Chargers, who they're a pretty good team right now. That'll be an interesting. What is that? Monday night, the Harbaugh brothers. See, the Ravens got to they've got to try to bounce back. They got some decent teams they got to play here, just like the Steelers do. Steelers Fanatics 78 says 24-13 Steelers. Bupsy says 17-10 Steelers. Mean Green says 22-3 Pittsburgh. We've got Mike with the 25-16 with the snow safety. Water in the Desert says 27-17 Steelers. Sherry Richards has 15-8 Steelers. Thomas Eads says 27-9 Steelers. John Walter has 20-14 Steelers. Brian Morrow says Steelers 24-6. And that's the last one I have right now. Is that
Hey,
right?
for folks that got out there, in my opinion, if the Steelers get north of 21 points in this game, it will have been a very dominant performance by our offensive line.
Yep, I think you're right. Just Dog 916 says 37-10 Steelers. That would be. I would love to see that. I'm not banking on that. I'm banking on a low scoring game because of the weather. But I was banking on a high scoring game against the Ravens because it was great weather and the top offense in the NFL, and that was a low scoring game. So what do I know? I don't know anything. Hopefully, all I know is I really want the Steelers to pull off this victory. Make sure you're checking out Steel Curtain Network. We've been compressing everything. The website is back. If you were getting there and you were getting errors, or if it just wouldn't load, it should be up and going great now. We're getting in all the content that we had that we couldn't get out before, so it's coming there. Also, I gave you a little rundown of how things will change some with the podcasts. Of course, they'll get compressed this week, and then they'll be stretched out a little bit more over the weekend and everything. But we'll get back on track eventually. Rich and I will be back here next Tuesday night, which should be a whole lot of fun. I'm making sure I didn't have any more scores. So, Rich, what do you have to say to close us out here tonight?
All right, so I didn't bring this up early, so I'm going to bring it up here at the end. Man, did I have a good weekend. So, took a half a day off of work Friday, went out, hit the tree stand. Decided to go out and see if I could finish filling up in the freezer. Time to find a big doe. Found one, got it down. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle came, helped with the deer. Got that done, was flying high then. That was like, great. That really frees up my Saturday. So was able to spend some time Saturday, got my boat winterized and put away for the winter. Needed to get that done with this upcoming snowstorm. So that got all done and got to do a couple extra things on my boat. Great. Fantastic. Done. Turn around Saturday. Steelers beat the Ravens. I'm just like, man, does the weekend get any better? Well, if you want to think about it, before I get to the next weekend, the Steelers play again.
Yes.
So my thought is, let's just keep this thing rolling and let's just get the Steelers to rack up another W. To me, would be huge. And just continue to make noise. The Steelers just keep putting up victories. Looking forward to it. Figured one thing out that's fantastic tonight. Guess what? How are you watching the game on Thursday night?
Oh, I got Prime.
Right, you're watching on Amazon Prime. Guess what? I can watch it on Amazon Prime,
You get KDKA, right?
but I don't have to.
Or is it PXI, WPXI?
It's on one of the two.
It's on one of those, yeah.
It's always on one of the two. So I actually think instead of watching on Prime, I'm going to watch on the local, so that I get the local announcers, because that will just be all that much more fun for me. Looking forward to it. Unfortunately, due to the impending storm, I will not have Kyle watching the game with me. They have 2 weekend games up in the Buffalo area. And actually, they have been told that if they do not leave on Thursday morning, they're not going to be allowed to leave by the college. So I think they're going to have to head out early. So he's going to have to watch the Steeler game on the road. Just makes me hope that, Dave, yours and my nephew Warren is willing to step up and fill the void of Kyle's seat upstairs, which I think he will be. And we'll sit up there and watch the Steelers in some crazy weather. And watch them put together what I hope will be a truly dominant performance against the Cleveland Browns. Can't wait.
Relax.